The situation surrounding the very surprising, shocking, suspicious death of Pastor JohnPaul Miller's wife, Mica, continues to get even more interesting as we get new information. Now, on Sunday, May 5th, there were two separate memorial services that were held for Mica. One was at the church, Solid Rock, at Market Common, and the other was a beachside memorial that was held by other friends and family. However, questions were starting to swirl as far as, did Pastor JohnPaul Miller have another girlfriend at the time that, Mica had passed away? Well, the answer to that question is yes, but there is some interesting information as far as the history here with the new girlfriend. We're going to get into all of it. There's a lot to talk about. Welcome, everybody, to Not By Sight News. Yes, a blind Christian guy here reporting to you, reminding you as always, we walk by faith, not by sight. For someone like me, that's kind of my only option. Speaking of that, for those interested, you want to know my story about how I went blind and how I operate my entire ministry without being able to see, I made a video that explains it all. You'll find a link to that in the description section of all of my videos. And if you enjoyed my work here and you would like to contribute to my ministry with a donation, a couple different ways you can do that. One, by just hitting the super thanks button on the YT video here, or join my Patreon for as little as $5 a month, patreon.com/notbysightnews. That link can be found in the description of this video. So let's get into this, because the Mica Miller situation, justice for Mica, absolutely, I agree completely, wholeheartedly with that hashtag that's going around right now for Mica. It was Pastor JohnPaul Miller that had announced to his congregation on April 28th, this was after he had already preached his service, that his wife Mica had passed away. He said that he got a call the night before informing him that Mica had died from a, being self-induced. We later found out that it was apparently, allegedly, a self-inflicted gunshot. Now, the one thing here that JohnPaul Miller did not say was who actually called him to tell him that Mica had died, that she had ended her life, that she took her life. Because he didn't mention that. Because police are not, saying that she took her life. They're still investigating. No, it was JohnPaul Miller that made this claim by this anonymous mystery caller who said that Mica took her life. But again, we don't know who that is. Now, after that, JohnPaul Miller from the pulpit was instructing congregants, not to talk about this, keep this quiet as you're leaving the church service today. We just want to keep a prayerful mind and everything. So he was trying to control the narrative from the pulpit, which was, very suspicious to me. He obviously doesn't want anybody asking him questions. He tried to blame this on her mental illness and the fact that this was a struggle that she obviously had and people knew this. Although, if you talk to her family, well, they would say that, this was something that was weaponized by JohnPaul Miller, that he tried to weaponize the struggles that she had to try and control her more and to mistreat her. And eventually, this led to the two of them becoming separated, and Mica even wanting a no-contact order after they were going to be filing for divorce. So the family does not believe here that Mica took her own life, and JohnPaul Miller has been named as a prime suspect now in this case. Because, that very same day during that service, that's when he announced they would be having a memorial service for her on May 5th. That's awfully fast to come together, something like that. You apparently just get this call hours earlier, and, you're talking about, oh, we already have a memorial service planned for the following Sunday. How do you get all that together that fast? I mean, to me, it looks like this guy is trying to get this thing to go away as quick as possible. Now, JohnPaul Miller admitted this in an interview that he gave with CP, that the relationship between him and Mica actually started in adultery, because JohnPaul had previously been married. He had 5 kids from another relationship. And also, Mica Miller was in a relationship of her own at the time. He admitted this in an interview and said that that was wrong. But also, if you go back even further than that, Mica Miller used to be in the youth group at the church. This is allegedly at the time that JohnPaul had started, showing interest in Mica. And we know what type of behavior that is. So he was already essentially kind of, handpicking her to be the next one in line for him. So the relationship starts in adultery. They get married in 2017. She's only around 23 at the time. And then all the problems in the marriage come after that. I mean, can you really be surprised, right? I mean, Mica didn't deserve the treatment that she got here from JohnPaul Miller. And I'm sure that Mica over time probably repented, of everything that she did that wasn't right in this situation, as far as how that relationship began. But how many pastors do we see do this, right? They go to the youth group, right? They just, they're taking a look around and seeing who they can manipulate next. That's what JohnPaul Miller did here. But let's get into this, because the new girlfriend, this was something that had been talked about. JohnPaul, you got to understand this. This was just days after he announced Mica's death. JohnPaul Miller was spotted in pictures all over TikTok and social media with another woman. And that woman's name, we found out, was Susie Skinner. Susie Skinner is apparently a woman that JohnPaul has been involved with now for quite some time. However, keep in mind that both him and Mica had not been divorced yet. That had not been finalized. They were only separated. So here he was just actively dating this other woman while supposedly taking care of Mica at the same time. I don't know about that. But as the two of them were spotted all, hand in hand and smiling and this and that, he looked like someone that was, mourning the loss of his, wife who had just made this announcement. Also, Susie Skinner looks like, from what I have seen from some people, also, fairly, young herself. However, Susie Skinner also was previously married. And this was something that I found out as I was doing a little bit of research on this. Susie Skinner was married to a man by the name of Chris. Now, Chris, unfortunately, this was around 20 years ago. He had a bad accident that left him in a wheelchair. However, he was able to really bounce back from that and live a pretty nice life for himself. And, despite, his challenges of being in the wheelchair, Chris, he loved to go to the community pool, where they lived. However, it was back around Labor Day in 2021 where Chris Skinner had an unfortunate accident. He apparently got his wheelchair a little bit too close to the pool and fell in and drowned, sadly passing away. Now, again, I will say here that Chris was a regular at the community pool, loved being there. So you would think that Chris would, practice proper safety precautions when being around the water and in his chair. But I guess he just got a little too close to the pool that day. Now, where am I getting with all this? Who ended up doing the funeral here for Chris Skinner? None other than Pastor JohnPaul Miller. Now, I'm not suggesting here that JohnPaul Miller had anything to do with this, but it is interesting that he did the funeral service for this man and later went on to be involved with his wife. Because at the time, obviously JohnPaul Miller was married to Mica, right? But here he was giving the funeral service here for Susie Skinner's husband. And now him and Susie are hand in hand and appear to be an item. There is a lot here that needs to be looked into. And I know police are investigating this case right now involving Mica Miller. And for JohnPaul Miller, I'll tell you what, and I've talked before about, this guy's bullying tactics and intimidation when former congregants have spoke out about their mistreatment when they left Solid Rock and how he was after that. This is not somebody that is qualified for ministry in any way whatsoever. And it just seems like he just goes from one woman to the next. I mean, the guy had already admitted to being in adultery, once before. Was there things going on here with Susie while he was still married to Mica? I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised at all. But this guy seems to get himself involved in all these situations where these unfortunate, mystery, suspicious circumstances seem to happen. For anybody, if you're a part of Solid Rock, I would advise you get as far away from this place as you can. This is not the type of pastor that you want to be sitting under in any way whatsoever. The family had talked about how, just going to go with JP instead of saying John Paul at the time, but how JP had always was trying to force medication upon Mica, even when she didn't even need it. There was apparently forced hospitalizations where even doctors said that she wasn't a danger to herself, that she didn't need to be there. He had slashed her tires a couple of times to prevent her from being able to leave the home. So there are all sorts of things here. And the fact that he said that JP had, said that, people on social media, you can't listen to them putting out false information, all these things. But then Mica's own sister had said that if you hear any information, other than coming from the family, think of it as being presented as false. Take our word. Don't believe what anybody else is saying here. You know what? I tend to believe the family. I do. And again, the memorial services that were held on May 5th, there were protests that were held outside of Solid Rock Church that same morning, again, calling for justice for Mica, people that were not trusting that JohnPaul Miller was telling the truth in this, and I can't blame them one single bit. There's definitely going to be a lot more that comes out about this. And I want to hear from you. The comment section will be open for you to leave your thoughts on this. What do you think here about, JP appearing out in public with the new girlfriend, seemingly, all good and, everything's all fine? Did you think that they had a relationship going on, even, predating the issues with Mica before her death? Let me know your thoughts. And again, if you enjoy my work here and you'd like to contribute to the ministry, remember you can donate by hitting the Super Thanks button or by joining my Patreon for as little as $5 a month at patreon.com/NotBySightNews. What I want to do right now, something I do on all these videos, that's end this video on hope. It's part of my ministry outreach. This is an altar call. I've been doing this on my videos since 2016. No matter what it is that I'm discussing here in the church and exposing the false prophets, we always want to give people the opportunity to receive Christ as Savior. So for anybody watching now, if you are somebody that has not yet accepted Christ into your life, I want to lead you in a prayer to do that right now. You want to make sure that whenever you leave this world, however you do, that you are in the arms of Christ when it happens. So for anybody watching now, if you're somebody that has not yet accepted Christ, I want to lead you in a prayer to do that right now. This is a prayer you could do in your own words, but I will give you the steps you need to bring it before the Lord today. The first thing that you want to do right off the top, acknowledge that you are a sinner. That is something that we all are. The good news is that God gave his only son, Jesus Christ, to die on that cross for the sins of all the world, as he died and rose again for you and me. He paid the cost. What you have to do is repent of your sin. That means to turn from sin, not just to say you're sorry and then jump back to your old ways, but to actually turn from sin, which are those lifestyles, patterns, habits, behaviors, things in your life that go against the Word of God. If you humbly go before the Lord, though, and ask him to forgive you, he'll wipe your sin away. The Bible says he doesn't remember it any longer. And then you invite Jesus into your life to be your Lord and Savior. When you do that, you become born again, a child of God. You will have eternal life. Trust me when I tell you there is no greater decision that you will ever make than the one you do to give your life to Christ. And I pray you make that decision today. Again, more info down below. I welcome your thoughts in the comment section, and also continued prayers going out to the entire family of Mica Miller for God to bring you all peace and comfort at this time, and also that truth will be revealed into this whole situation. I'll be back with more. You guys take care. Please be safe out there. God bless each and every single one of you, and I'll talk with you soon.